My father sold our third-generation farm to my cousin instead of me. 1 year later, he asked if he could move in with me. I was 8 years old when my grandfather first put me on a tractor. By 12, I was helping with calving season before school while my friends played video games. I was learning how to repair irrigation systems and rotate crops for better yields. Our 600-acre farm in Nebraska had been in the family since my great-grandfather homesteaded the land in 1919. My father was supposed to be the one who expanded it, but he was more interested in the lifestyle than the business. He kept things running, but barely. I left for agricultural college at 18, got my degree in modern farming practices and business management. Every weekend, I'd drive 4 hours home to help my dad with the work that was getting harder as he got older. My cousin Tyler, dad's sister's son, visited maybe twice a year for family holidays. When I graduated, I came back with plans. I showed dad how we could increase yield by 40% with updated irrigation, how we could diversify into specialty organic crops for higher margins, how we could transform our struggling operation into something sustainable for generations to come. This is still my farm, he'd say whenever I suggested changes. We've done fine for 3 generations doing things this way. I spent 5 years working that land 7 days a week, implementing small changes where he'd allow it, watching our profits slowly increase. I put every dollar I made back into equipment and improvements. I lived in the small cottage on the property, saving to eventually buy the farm from him when he retired. Then last spring at Sunday dinner, Dad announced he was selling the farm to Tyler. Tyler has an MBO from Morton, my father said proudly. He's got connections to investors. He's going to turn this place into a real agribusiness operation. Tyler hadn't worked a single harvest, hadn't fixed a tractor in the rain, hadn't stayed up all night with a sick calf, but he had the right degree and the right promises. I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I packed my truck that night and drove to Lincoln. Ghost my savings, the money that was supposed to buy my family's legacy as down payment on 80 acres of neglected land nobody wanted. The soil was poor, the buildings were falling apart, but it was mine. I spent that first month sleeping in my truck, worked construction during the day, and prepared my land at night. However, every farmer I'd ever met for advice, applied everything I'd learned, but was never allowed to try by fall. I had my first specialty crop harvested and sold to 3 farm-to-table restaurants in Omaha by winter. I'd converted the old barn into a modern hydroponic facility growing vegetables year-round. By spring, I had 4 employees and contracts with 12 restaurants and 2 grocery chains. Yesterday, my father called. Tyler's investors had pulled out. The bank was foreclosing on the family farm. The land that had supported our family for a century would be auctioned next month. I don't know what I am going to do, Dad said, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Your mother and I, we put everything into that place. The silence stretched between us. I have a spare room, I finally said. It's nothing fancy, but you are welcome to it. This morning I signed papers to expand my operation by another 120 acres. Next year we'll gross more than our family farm ever did. And every night my father sits at my dinner table watching me build the legacy he couldn't see when it was right in front of him. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't trying something new, it's clinging to something old.